Welcome to another Railroads Online showcase video, M.I.A. edition. We are back at the former location of the coal mine base camp. I always knew that setup would be temporary, but I expected more something along the lines of me occasionally rebuilding parts of it, making things a bit more functional and all that, but I didn't expect to completely demolish everything the next day and kinda not even use the entire area anymore. There is a new base camp, but it's in a completely different location, which we shall walk towards right now. It's right over here. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the new version. It adds a few more features and lets me approach the coal mine in a very specific way that I like, so this might be how it's going to stay. But I'll also listen to feedback from you guys, because especially with the 12 coaling towers here, I'm not too sure about those. They are very practical. They are pretty imposing and everything, but we also have a bit of a flaw that it's highly unlikely that something like this would ever be built. I mean, it kind of looks cool in my eyes. For some people, it looks maybe a bit more out of place, so let me know what you think about those. We'll talk a bit more about them and the other details in a moment. But mainly I want to start out by giving you the overview of this new station. Of course, the connection is still the same as it used to be. So it goes into that whole spaghetti that also connects it to the ironworks and to the main line. But on this end, you can basically divide this into three different sections to explain the general functionality. The leftmost stuff is kind of your bulk standard supply area for the engines. Apart from having a second water tower due to there also being two engines here, which I may want to refuel at the same time. Overall, this is just what you would expect here. The three tracks in the middle here is what I'm going to use for accepting supplies that need to go up to the coal mine. So beams and rails, that's what these three tracks are for. And the two tracks around the coal towers here, that's for dealing with the coals, as you might imagine. The way I wanted to deal with this entire thing is by having dedicated cars and engines just for this one purpose. So all the cars and the two engines that you see here, the other one of course being on the other side of the coaling tower, they are always going to be only here to either go up towards the coal mine and deliver supplies, or come back down here with full hoppers and load those off here. For the hoppers, I'm also going to be just taking coal directly to the ironworks. After all, it's a pretty close by neighbor. So that's in so close proximity, there is no need to load it onto a road-going train and have a faster engine deal with that. The climaxes may be slower than running, but even they are fast enough to deal with that without it being annoying or something like that. But yeah, when delivering coal down here, you can just park the entire train behind the coaling towers, and they are spaced out in a way that it works with how long the hoppers here are. So yeah, you just park the entire train once and load everything off into the coaling towers. If you come in here with a bunch of empty hoppers, 12 or less, you can just park the entire train in front of here and load everything onto those hoppers with just basically pulling down all the chutes. Just need to make sure that you put them back up before any of the hoppers are getting overloaded. But yeah, that's a pretty quick way to unload and reload everything. If I was to remove the towers, I would likely put down at least 2 more tracks over here. I think that should be fine space-wise. And then fill them up with additional sets of hoppers. So it would be more, another set of 12 hoppers per track over here. So I could just fill them up and leave them over here until I need to deliver them to somewhere. Then again, the only reason to use this stuff over here would be to resupply another coaling tower somewhere else on the map, because the only industry accepting coal is the ironworks over there. So since we don't really need to refuel anything with how little coal the engines require, or more how much they have stored in the tenders. It's kinda overkill. I don't know. Could have gone with these hoppers are standing around here, and if you need some coal somewhere on the other part of the maps, just have an engine come in, attach to one of the to one of the trains, and later return the empty hoppers. Anyways, going on now to this area. This again is for the beams and the rails. Beams would go on to this track right here, the rails on the other side. Reason being that this one is slightly longer. I think you can put up to 16 cars onto this one, of a regular sized cars that is. So that's twice as much stuff as you can actually get on up towards the coal mine in one go anyways, so you can use this as a bit of a storage. On this side you would then put down the rails and just have a few stake cars with rails and load them onto the smaller cars. All of the cars that I have here are planned out in a way that that everything kinda evens out in terms of the ratio. If you play on medium industry difficulty, I mean the ratio of the stuff that you put in is always the same regardless. So it's gonna take 3 of these cars being filled up with rails and 8 of these ones being filled up with beams. Yeah, kinda just using up everything without any leftovers, and the amount of stuff that you get out of here should be the exact same amount that you can put into 12 hoppers there. So that should be all the same, I'm pretty sure. I'll be trying this out a bit more. Right now there are still a lot of rails up there from my first delivery, where I just put just like 60 rails into the coal mine. Still need to deplete those, but afterwards I think it should be all always evening out like that. So if I do one delivery with supplies, everything filled up, I should be able to get exactly one train of coal out of it with 12 hoppers like we have over here. So I think, to me at least, that's pretty cool if it happens to shake out like that. Again, I have to try, but I'm pretty sure that's how it all ends up working out here. But besides that, there is not really too much else to talk about here, apart from again it being a bit of a short station. And yeah, if I now need to actually deliver some supplies, I would just detach one of the engines here and put it to the back of the train, and the other one from the front and put it to the front of this one, so that's alright. The sugarcane cars, I'm not the biggest fan of after trying them out a bit. They tend to derail rather quickly. I mean, sure, if I give it just full steam ahead with one of the strongest engines in the game, yeah, they are likely going to be struggling a bit, but I had a lot of derailments just trying to empty out this area and put everything into separate space to rebuild everything here. But yeah, so much about that. One thing I should still mention about the coaling towers, I didn't build them by hand. I tried to. I have a few tricks that allow this kind of stuff to be possible. Still very hard though. Overall, I'm not the biggest fan of some of the building placement system in the game. I hope it's gonna get a bit more advanced, where you can actually temporarily put it down, just walk around it and then move it before actually placing it. Just so you can get a bit more of a better idea of how the entire thing is going to shake out. With how it is right now, completely attached to the camera, it's very tough. Again, there are ways in-game to make it easier, but after trying out a few attempts, I kinda gave up on it. Wasn't worth my time, and with Railroad Studio, which I used to just find adjust all the coordinates of the buildings, it turned out to be pretty easy to make it almost perfect. So yeah, I'll likely make a short little video explaining my building tips here. That's gonna be another video, just so I don't overload this one. Might be useful for some other stuff as well, not just for coaling towers, but I almost doing testing before I figured out the proper spacing, I actually managed to by hand place them down in a way that I could actually just drive over the tracks on the back here. So it can be done, it just takes a lot of effort and some trial and error as well. But enough rambling about that, I'll explain in another video how I would go about doing that. Let's now have a quick look at the ironworks. Not too much changed over here, apart from me actually using it now. So we have a few boxcars filled up with boxes, and I think that's 16 cars with pipes over here. So that's all working out pretty well. I'm kind of using my radius as a little helper engine here. I don't have too much use for it otherwise anyways. It's mostly there to assist the 10, or not the 10, but the Ruby Basin, if that one has an issue with any incline. But yeah, apart from that, the only addition really here is the track that I built right here. This is just as a temporary storage for empty or full boxcars. It's easy enough to, if you have just one boxcar, put it onto this track, just keep it there, get it filled up. But if you have multiple ones, it's kinda getting a bit more difficult handling everything. So you can just use this track as well to just temporarily park them. Another option I would have, and that's something that I'm considering, although it doesn't make that much sense, I could go for an entire train of boxcars, fill that all up here, and just have another area at the oil field where you would then just park the train and eventually just deplete one of the cars after the other. It's a bit sad that the game doesn't have too many uses for these, even though they are pretty much iconic. But let me know if you want to see something like this overall. Just having a few of them attached to the back of another train works out pretty well, but isn't necessarily required to have a full train of them. Would be more for the looks of it. Anyways, having spoken about the oil field, let's now go to that and get a bit into that whole thing. I tried connecting this entire area, and well, first up I tried to go down with a 1% line, which was a bit ridiculous. Now it's a 2%er, which is far more reasonable. So over there in the distance we have the oil field, just at the bottom of a valley, next to where the smelter used to be. And that 1% line started over here on this part. And what we see down there, that's actually a continuation of that, so that's where it goes around the entire valley for one lap. Let me just put up the map here for a moment. I know this is a lot of spaghetti. If we look at the rightmost part, the rightmost line is just the main line going around the entire area. After that we have another track, that's the 1% line doing its first turnaround. The second time is, I think, the 2% line coming down, and the third time is actually the 1% line doing its second half a lap around the area, so I just kept it in here because I know I'll be removing it, so there's no way to really show much of it after today. But I kinda like the way it looks, and bit of a shame that it didn't work out. But going around the entire thing for 1.5 times just to reach the bottom is a bit ridiculous. The reason I went with 1% beforehand was that... Let me just turn the map off again. Let's see. The track over here, this is also 1% up, and I thought matching that would be a good idea. However, it's only 1% to the smelter. Since we need to go up to the refinery, and the track between the smelter and the refinery is 2%, as far as I remember. Yeah, having a 1% line here doesn't do much, but matching the 2% line should be reasonable, and again, it works out with how I built the entire thing. I still need to clear out all the different trees and all that. It's gonna take a while, but at least we have stuff around here built up. We now have a way down, and there is also a station down here. So let me show you around this one. The layout is pretty similar overall to what I built on the non-modified version of the map before I stopped playing on that. Due to that stupid bug with this platform here, which still isn't really fixed, so I just recently submitted another bug report, and I hope they are going to do something about this rather soon, because I don't want to go with stop and go on this, but we'll see. I'll do what I have to. And if it's restarting on another save again, that's gonna be it. No, that's not gonna be a solution. But yeah, on this end, we come in from the track that comes in from all the way up at the logging camp. So this is now the 2% line. This stuff going around here is the last remains of the 1% line. I had to delete it in order to place down the building here, which will be for some helper engines. And I think that's gonna be the next tall order here. Just getting helper engines. Just getting a bit of money in order to buy more engines, buy more cars, that kind of stuff. Because right now, most of the stuff that I have is actually in use. The logging cars filled with what's again with pipes. That's actually the only regular logging cars I have. The other ones are just the skeleton cars that are still left somewhere on a side track. So I may need a few more, especially if I want to do the whole dedicated car thing and stuff like that. But anyways, coming in here from up above, you have the choice between going towards the supply drop-off area or the area for filling up the tank cars. And yeah, the shed just connects to the tank car area because that's kind of where I want them to be. You would get your engine with the empty tank cars over onto this track, and then you would have two helper engines pulling them out, getting them onto one of these tracks, and then just lining them up with spouts over there. One engine for this track, one for the other. Again, it's something that I took from my other save, and I never really did much with that idea. I was lacking the money in order to get a decent amount of those tank cars, and yeah, also never really did much with supplying here after I figured out that one bug. But yeah, empty cars will be filled up over here, then be pushed further down that line to reassemble into a train. And sooner or later this one, where you will have all the empties on, will also get depleted. You can put your engine further down on the track and turn it around with a turntable. Maybe come back onto this track. And on this one it just bypasses all the supply lines. The supply area, so yeah, can hopefully eventually do a rolling drop-off on this area. And maybe once all this stuff is depleted, you'll just come back and do one after the other in terms of box cars and delivering the tools. So nothing too different from the regular version that I did on the other save, apart from now also having a supply area in the middle. I just wanted something where you can resupply your helper engines on this track, or either one of these would have been fine. And therefore there wasn't too much of a choice in terms of where I would put the firewood depot, because putting it on this side I would need a completely different track for that, and that would have been a lot more work than just kind of making a bit of a bend around here and allowing stuff to be put over here. I was also considering to maybe just pull it down the other way around, so it would just be on the side of one track, and if you it would be connected with drop-off area, and if you actually need some firewood, you would need to park your engine here, go onto the other side, grab the firewood from this side, and then walk back. But that looked like a rather scrappy version to do this, a scrappy way to do it, and I ultimately decided against it. So the last thing I want to talk about today is the recent update to the game. There has been some bug fixes, especially with the ghost braking bug, where sometimes your engine, even though you had the brake loose, wouldn't roll as much as it used to. I had that happen quite a few times, and it's Very annoying if you just want to do a rolling drop off or something, or you just notice that your train is stopping rather quickly, despite you thinking all the brakes are loose, and you just go back and forth on all the different cars and see if one of the brakes is not completely loosened up. Also, you will have to work against the brakes when trying to deliver something, which makes the entire thing a bit more difficult. And yeah, glad they got rid of that bug. New bug though that apparently now brakes are binary, they are either on or off completely. I don't know if you need to be at 0 to have it completely turned off, but yeah, consider everything in between is either gonna be on or off, but nothing like half a brake or so. Overall, still there have been a few more slight bug fixes. I don't really want to get into every one of them. There has been just a few odd behaviors with engines, and those have been addressed, which is cool. And I gotta say, especially since my switch onto the Unreal Engine 5 version, I think the game is in a pretty decent space recently. The steps that we are taking by not just adding more content, but also by addressing bugs and trying to improve the overall game's quality, those are definitely things that I like to see. I like to see that they kind of support the whole custom maps thing a bit more by allowing the different text on this map to be adjusted to where the actual industry is and all that kind of stuff. This is all cool stuff. There's still a lot more things out there that need to be done, like maybe a better building placement, as I said, dealing with some other bugs and stuff like that, maybe some fine-tuning with how some of the newest additions work, because some of them are just completely useless, others are kinda ridiculously overpowered or something. But overall, the game is in a good state, I'd say, and it's also right now going into a good direction, which is something that I couldn't have said a few months ago, so pretty happy about that. Another little thing that I should show is that actually there is now for the purchasing a completely different area, which is somewhere under the map, so you can't really access it in the regular play. But yeah, this is just another backdrop for purchasing different cars or engines. So it's pretty neat. Can't look through any of the windows, it's all kinda barred off. But yeah, it's just a nice replacement for that weird track that used to be there near the starting area. And I'm so glad that they removed it, because before there used to be just a solitary piece of track down here, somewhere on this side. And you couldn't even go up to it, you couldn't delete it, you couldn't interact with it in any way. But it kinda kept you from building any track down in this direction. And now that it's actually gone, the entire area is fully usable, and I couldn't be happier about that. This is something that has been kind of been getting on my nerves for quite a while, and I'm so happy that I didn't start building the station over here beforehand, because now I can maybe actually make use of this and maybe just have a very long track going this direction. Until we get towards the mountains, where there's nothing really stopping me from that, and I think that's a huge improvement. However, that's gonna be it from me, for now at least. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and till next time, bye bye.